Hey guys, Kevin from NeverStrip. Looking forward to this one. This is my favorite of the NeverStrip Micron sealer systems, the Tile Grout Restoration. So this is our front entrance. And then it goes into this little area here, which is the garage, and then the laundry. We'll call it the laundry closet, not really a laundry room, and then into the powder room. So we're going to do the cleaning, which I'll kind of breeze through that section of it. Most of you know how to clean tile and grout, so there's probably nothing new there. But I do want to focus on the color seal. The color seal application, followed by the color seal haze removal, and then finishing with the Micron sealer, which is a tile seal. Something with this floor that you're probably not going to see in the video. I will include a photo later, but there's actually a sheen variance on these tiles, and you kind of only pick it up certain points of the day or kind of looking at it at a certain angle. So the tile seal is also going to help even this floor out and get rid of that variance in the sheen as well. All right, well, let's get to it. All right, NeverStrip products we'll be using on this project. Deep Clean, our high pH cleaner, followed by Grout Prep, our low pH cleaner. And then the color sealer color is iron. So we'll be using that for sealing our grout. And then our final step is to apply the tile seal. And you can see here in this case, I'll be using the lower satin sheen. All right, so first thing we want to do, dry soil removal, which has already been done, whether you sweep it or vacuum it. I like to sweep it into a pile and then vacuum up the pile instead of trying to tinker around getting it into a dustpan. And you can see also I have taped the baseboards, and the main reason for that on this project is because we are doing the color seal, and I want to be able to get that color seal down in an efficient manner, not have to worry about the baseboards and cleaning that off afterwards. So also looks professional to go ahead and just tape everything, in a space like this, 190 square feet, took me an extra 10 minutes. So not a bad thing to do. For the equipment, I have a 450 Michaels. I know some of you are gonna lose your minds a little bit that I'm not using a 1000 PSI plus machine. I can assure you on a floor like this with this type of soil, that's gonna be more than enough to rinse and pull out both the soils and the chemical. If we were in a kitchen, a restaurant environment where you have tons of greases and oils, that kind of thing, then yes, you need the 1000 PSI plus, the heat, all the rest of it. I have a spinner tool, that's a Mighty spinner tool. I have a Malish brush. You can see the brush is uneven, so that's going to allow the weight of the machine to force it down into the grout and give that a good scrub. The only other thing I'll mention here, you can see there's a fizz here, or some white. Actually, I'll just add a bit more. And you'll see this in action here. You can see that fizzing, and that is a reaction we want when we apply a little bit of grout prep. So that's our low pH cleaner to the grout. We want to confirm that we have a cementitious grout for the color seal. We're all scrubbed. A little tip here. I like to throw a towel and just kind of hold it in place with these vent covers. Helps keep the water from dripping down into the vents. And then something else, because we're looking for a 15-minute dwell time with the deep clean, I'll use this to move the product around the floor where there's dry spots. You're not always having to apply new product. Sometimes you just got to move it. So it's not a bad idea to have one of these flat mops on hand here. So it's deep clean has been applied. We've done the 15-minute dwell time, and then we've also done the agitation with the 175 RPM. So I'm going to get to extracting this now. All right, first part of the cleaning is completed. So that is using the deep clean, the high pH cleaner, letting it dwell for 15 minutes, agitating it, and I was using the 175 RPM with the Tile Grout brush, and then rinse and extract with this guy here. So we're gonna move on to the second part of the cleaning, which is the grout prep. So that's the low pH cleaner. The only difference when I do the agitation with the, or for the grout prep, is I use this in the grout lines versus using any mechanical agitation. And the main reason for that is the main purpose of that grout prep is to prepare the grout to receive the color seal. Yes, it does other things, efflorescence and some other types of staining, but its main purpose is to lightly etch the grout. So I apply it, I give it the dwell time, and then I use this brush right in the grout lines to agitate it. All right, before I rinse the grout prep, so again, grout prep is the low pH cleaner, it's a 2.5. I will add a couple ounces of the deep clean, the high pH cleaner, to the rinse water. And obviously we don't want an acidic pH on the floor when we go to apply our color seal. So it just helped to counteract that and bring it back to neutral, or even a little bit into the alkaline side. All right, cleaning portion is done, and I've actually gone ahead and done some of the color seal here. So a couple things I want to point out. Minor repairs, you can see here it almost looks like it's the color seal. It's not, but anywhere you have really minor stuff to take care of and you want a really nice looking floor, sanded caulking is kind of your go-to. And here, if you're missing like inches of grout completely, those are sections you're going to want to regrout. You're not going to want to fill that in with sanded caulking. But like stuff like this on the edge, those can easily be filled in. And you know what? If I put grout in here, there's a good chance if this thing's moving, it's going to pop out again anyway. So it's actually a better solution for that kind of thing. Here, where there's a hairline crack kind of running along the tiles, again, I would prefer to have the sanded caulking in there. It's actually going to be a better solution than trying to refill and hoping that the grout doesn't crack again. Also, when you have high spots so what can happen is when I'm doing the color seal and I come across a line, if there's areas where the grout is a little high and it's not recessed, it's the towel is going to want to pull that the color seal off the grout as well. So if you need to cut back your grout a little bit, these little grout saws are a great way to go. There was a couple areas I had to do over here. Actually, full transparency, this floor, although I believe it was installed by the builder, looked like it was done by the homeowner, just looking at some of the detail stuff. The nice thing is, doing this system, it's actually going to make the floor look a whole lot nicer and a lot better than it did originally. So jumping back to the color seal portion, this is really the main, or the highlight, I guess, of this instructional. It's the portion that takes the longest. It's kind of hands and knees work, you know. That portion's kind of unavoidable, but it's something you'll probably only ever do once on this floor. This will last for years and years and years. The color seal itself is rarely ever redone. You know, as a maintenance cycle, typically it's keeping this floor clean, maybe getting a pad on it from time to time, and you know, it might be 4 or 5 years down the road, I might add a new application. All right, color seal application. So this is how I do it. You've likely or possibly seen another video of me going sort of across a line just from one end to the other. That would be more if I was working with a crew of two, you know, where I can really motor across a floor and I would have somebody cleaning up behind me, and I'm not so worried about working in one area. When I'm doing this alone, I want to be stationary, I want to work in an area, move on, that sort of thing. So first thing I'm going to do, I've got one of these designated to getting water on the floor. And I just want that there as a barrier for my color seal. So the color seal itself, I'm going to put right in the grout lines. And we're just putting, I don't know if you'd call it a 1/16 of an inch or whatever, but just a very thin line. It doesn't take much. And then standard toothbrush. And by the way, I'll put water on this to begin with, just to keep it from drying out. But you want to kind of shake the water out so it's not soaking wet. And then we're just using this to distribute the color seal. Now, one thing I will say is you want to be mindful to be hitting both sides of the tile, because you want to make sure this is going anywhere that the grout has gone. Otherwise, you're going to see that color seal is absent, and it's just not going to have a nice uniform look. So hitting both sides of the tile. And you're going to see as I'm going here, some of these tiles are, no spacers were harmed in the installation of this tile because none were used, would be my guess. So you can see there, it's quite evenly distributed. Now I will say, this is fairly dramatic versus the original grout, which is quite dark. So I did end up doing 2 applications in this other section, and obviously I'll end up doing the same across here. Now, if we work in a small section like this, the nice thing is we're here right after we start our haze cleanup. And if you do a good job on this, there is very little haze removal to do at the end of the project. Now, I don't typically recommend what I'm doing here, going back and forth, but here's why I'm doing it. These little dimples, they all want to grab the color seal. That's a really hard spot to pull out of afterwards. It can be done, but it's hard to get in there and not be sort of knocking down the color seal that's in the grout. So I want to try and do it on the front end, so I'm not having to clean that up aggressively afterwards. So that's kind of the color seal application in a nutshell. We will get to the haze removal afterwards. But for this, put our water down with a damp towel, apply the color seal in the lines, distribute it with the brush, haze removal, move to the next section. All right, a couple little notes. I like to have these are pre-dampened, they're pre-folded, and they're just ready for me to cycle through them. So these chamois are folded 3 times, once in half, half again, and then half again. I have 16 sides to work with on one chamois. You do want to be mindful once it's starting to fill up, you want to flip it so you're not redepositing haze back on your work. I keep this one. This is the one I'm using to pre-dampen the floor as I'm going. So I always keep this one bigger, and then I'm never confusing it with the other ones I'm using. The other thing, here is a Yorker cap. So you want the Yorker cap for a pint-sized bottle, and then you can just put it right on here. You don't want to use the lid this comes with, because you'll be getting it all over the tile. These are nice to be able to keep that tip right in the grout line. All right, here's a good example of where I would use the sanded caulking to fill in an imperfection. Just gonna help even out the floor. Again, this little one here as well. The urethane, it's just not gonna straddle those type of gaps. So you can go ahead and fill those in. I'm gonna be doing a second coat here anyway, so I'll just do it in between applications. All right, so one more clip of doing the color seal application. So again, we have this damp pad we're using just to pre-dampen the tile as a barrier. We have our color seal with our Yorker cap. And you're gonna find once in a while that thing is gonna pop out of the grout lines, like happens to me. You might come out here a little bit, just leave it, and as you're coming through with the brush, just pick that up and bring it back, drop it back into the grout line. It's gonna happen from time to time. So we got our toothbrush. We wanna make sure we're hitting the inside of the grout line and both sides, both edges of the tile, so we have really good coverage with the color seal. So it may be hard to tell, but when I'm coming in at first, I angle this way, and then I'll just angle it back on this side as I come back. So again, hitting both sides of the tile, that is quite important. So we have our, again, damp chamois. So we pick up the bulk, and then doesn't hurt to move to a new side, and you can see again where these little dimples are. I kind of have to go with the grout lines to pick that up, but you just want to be careful not to be grabbing what's in the grout line. So you want to do that with just a little bit of pressure, just enough to pick it up. And there you go. That's the grout seal application. Sorry, that is the color seal for the grout application. All right, we're at the haze removal stage. I'd already done it over here. And just a little tip, this is a 1/3 Makita sheet sander, so it holds a 1/3 sheet of sandpaper. This is a cut down melamine pad. So those, the pads that would go on a square scrub type machine, those are ideal for here. You just cut them down and you keep the ends. It has like this backing sheet here. See that color one? So you just cut that longer. So you just essentially have to cut off the extra melamine strip, and then it'll hook in to these tabs. So these are great for doing your haze removal pickup for in behind those areas. Super handy, and the corners. Outside of that, we're going to be using this guy with a melamine pad. I'm showing the EPP pad because if I had a lot of grout haze, and you can see there's, I mean, you can't even see actually that there's any grout haze, but there's probably some that's not really being picked up by the camera. So we do want to do that step regardless. If I had a lot and it was quite visible, I would do the EPP pad first, followed by the melamine pad. Now, because I have very little, I'm just going to go straight to the melamine pad, and you guys will be able to see what's coming up. I'll do sort of this half. So what I want to do is spritz some water. So you want your, you want a spray bottle handy. Just put down enough to sort of dampen the area, and also put some on your melamine pad as well, because those pads can really bite if they're dry. All right, I'll just move on to that, and I will show you what's come up on this section. Okay, so I've dampened the pad and the floor just with a real light spritz of water. And again, I'll just show you what comes up on this pad once I'm done this section. All right, so not a lot, as you can see, but you know, worth taking the effort to do that step anyways. One other thing I'll show you real quick. I don't have this pre-dampened. Obviously, this is just an offcut from a pad, but if you're going along and see this kind of thing right here, if you have that, just get a little bit of water on it. Use your EPP pad, and you want to try and stay out of the grout line as much as possible, but just a little bit of pressure and you can clean up those corners or edges where the sealer has caught and just doesn't come out quite as easy. And just give it a really nice crisp line all through those grout lines. So that's something I would do as my very last step just before I apply, and then you would want to wipe that up with the chamois. But you want to do that before you apply the sealer, so obviously you're not going over the color seal with the tile seal. All right, so there's what I picked up across the rest of the floor. Not that much, but again, still worth the effort. One thing I neglected to mention is you want to wait about 30 minutes before doing this. So 30 minutes after you do your color seal application, you want to give the floor, the urethane, a good chance to set up before you put a little bit of water back down and get this pad on the floor. Last step I'm going to do here before applying the sealer is go over the floor just with this flat microfiber pad, damp, with water. And I just want to make sure I'm getting any streaks, any footprint marks, any hand marks, that kind of thing up off the floor before we put the tile seal down. All right, before I do the overall application, I just want to show you guys how I would do the tricky spots, because this inevitably comes up in questions. So you can see I've kind of wet out the microfiber towel. So in this corner where it's going to be a little tricky to get to with the microfiber mop, I'm actually just going to do an application on those single tiles. And the same in areas like this. I'm just going to wipe it on. Now, I do sort of want to hit the entire tile just to make sure I have an even coat on there. So I'll just show you that real quick. All right, so you got a nice even film on there. All areas will be covered. I'll get in behind there doing the same. I'll hit the corners doing the same, and then I'll fill in the rest of it, and I'll video most of that for you. Now, very important to avoid streaking is to pre-dampen this applicator pad with the sealer. If you don't, you're almost guaranteed to get streaking. So you want to avoid that. So I'll spray it on, and then I'll actually work it in just to make it as even as possible across that entire pad. And then I've just got a nice evenly dampened pad to work with, and then we'll get on to the application. Okay, so you're not going to see all this, just there's no way to set up the camera in such a manner that I can do that. However, you'll get a good idea of how this is going down, how thin it goes down, and how little you play with the product to get a nice even coat. So or a nice even application. So I'm gonna do the first application here. I'll have to move the camera at some point, but essentially what you want to do as much as possible is 3 foot by 6 foot sections at a time. And obviously that's a little tricky to do in the washroom, but we'll make that work in there. You won't be able to see it, but it's just a smaller version of doing a 3 by 6 section, I guess is the best way to describe it. All right, so on with the application. have to stop it there, and then we'll jump back when this is dried up, and I'll give you a tour doing the second application. Hopefully this is a better angle for the application. However, there is a Micron application video on our website under video gallery, and it's actually done from above, so it's a much better angle. It's kind of tough to get it in here and have the camera off the floor where I need it. So you'll see what you'll see, I guess, on this one. Done one application, I don't see any streaks or anything, so we're good to go with the second. And 2 is probably all I'll do. And just another tip here, these applicator mops, this is a Home Depot version, HDX. So you don't want this nozzle or your pad drying up between applications. And by the way, between applications is 10 minutes. So we've actually been a little longer than that now, so we're good to go with the second application. And that will likely be it. And once that dries up, I'll do a little video of tour of how the floor looks. All right, so there we go. That is the lower satin sheen tile seal from NeverStrip. And we are done throughout. And do I see this? Okay, I thought I saw a dry patch. Oh, by the way, if you do see a dry patch at this point, it is really just a matter of taking like the blue microfiber towel I used earlier and just filling in that tile, and that's gonna blend with the rest of the floor. This sealer is extremely forgiving. So there's the final product. NeverStrip Tile Grout Restoration, Deep Clean, Grout Prep, Color Seal, and Iron was the color there. And then the 2 applications of Tile Seal, and I have gotten rid of that sheen issue that was existing from the factory. All right, well, hopefully this video was helpful. Now, I did neglect to press play when I was doing that second application, so what I'm gonna do is insert the sealer application video that we have on our website. That was actually done on this tile. So that, and then I'll walk through that portion as well. All right, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time. All right, one more thing I did want to cover is amount of product or amount of sealer used. So this is a 16-ounce bottle. I used about 6 ounces of color seal. And this is a 200 square foot project, or actually just under 200 square foot. So just giving you an idea of coverage. 12-inch tiles, 200 square feet, give or take. 16-ounce bottle, I used 6 ounces, and keep in mind, the color change was quite dramatic. It was very dark grout to begin with. So I did choose to do 2 applications to make sure I got a nice, just fully opaque once the 2 applications were down. And just to give you an idea on this side, this is right around 100 square feet of tile. So to do once with the color seal took me about 50 minutes. And then for the tile seal I use, and by the way, I ended up doing a 3rd application because as you can see, this is quite textured, this tile, so it was quite easy to miss some areas. Now that said, I might have covered this already actually, but I'll say it again. If you did miss an area, like let's say, you know, right around this red, you could see where it's kind of dull. You could just use that blue towel with sealer on the towel, fill in this tile on its own and it'll blend with the rest of the floor, no problem. So here's how much tile seal was used. Again, I ended up doing 3 applications. So it's just around half of the quart of tile seal. So it gives you an idea of how much is required. Again, 3 coats. So that was, actually that makes a lot of sense because ultimately that's about 600 square feet. There's just over half left there, and we typically say you'll get between 1250 and 1500 square feet, 1 application per quart. All right, thanks guys. Thank you for taking the time to watch the extended version of the NeverStrip Tile Grout Restoration application. If you have any questions or if you want something broken down in greater detail, just leave a comment down below. Be happy to do up another video or 2 if that's required. Or you can reach me at kevin.richardson@neverstrip.com and maybe take a look at our website as well at neverstrip.com. Until then, thanks again, and we'll catch you next time.